Welcome back, guys, to Forgotten Working Class Podcast. And today we have Challen with us, and he is here. So, where are you calling in from?
I'm actually from Idaho. So I was born and raised in Caldwell, Idaho, and currently I'm sitting in Boise, Idaho, which is about 30 minutes from Caldwell. So
Okay.
yeah.
How's the weather right now?
Actually, right now it's really, really nice. I think it's about 80 degrees out here, maybe 85. We just got out of some really high temps of 100 to 110, um, and up here that's pretty standard this time of year. So. But right now it's really, really nice out, just perfect. And we had some wildfires. We've been um, had a lot of smoke, which cooled it down a little bit, but then you're dealing with the smoke, and that
Smoke,
seems
yeah.
to have slowed down a lot and kind of blown away. And so right now the weather's pretty nice. So
Nice.
yeah,
Yes, here it's hot here.
where
We're in
you guys at?
Florida.
Florida.
Florida,
Okay. Uh huh.
the
Yeah. What are the
humidity is
temperatures right now?
probably about, I would say probably 90 degrees right now, but the humidity
Okay.
it feels like 120.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We have a dry heat here, so I think it's a little easier to handle. So,
Yeah.
uh, yeah.
All right. So, what do you do for work?
Well, I am the CEO of our landscaping company, the CV Brothers Landscaping, and so I do commercial lawn maintenance. And I've been in landscaping and lawn maintenance most of my career. Um, but before we did that, me and my brothers started our framing company, and that's where you've probably seen all the TikToks from. And so we have a building company as well, and we just started building houses and eventually got into apartment buildings and grew past that into banks and other commercial projects. And we eventually moved to where that we had subcontractors building for us. And so we've did okay in that industry, I think. And one year we had some extra money. So what are we going to do with it? Do we pay ourselves? And we said, well, we like to do landscaping. All of us brothers kind of do, have always did a little bit of landscaping here and there. And they said, we're going to start a landscaping company. And I took it and ran with it. And we have, 10 or 15 accounts, something like that right now. And we just cut the grass and trim the shrubs and just do the maintenance. And
That's
then we have
awesome.
yeah, so we have a landscaping install crew also. So it's kind of neat because my brothers will start the relationship and get it going, and they'll start building the apartment buildings. And then they'll just say, hey, by the way, we have a landscaping company too. And so then I come in and we submit a bid, and a lot of times, most of the time we'll get the work if we're come recommended by my brothers, and then we'll landscape the apartments too. And so we're just kind of, I don't know, just working
It's
and
all
living.
package deal.
Yeah, as far as the landscaping and the framing goes, yeah.
Yeah.
So it seems to be working pretty good. We scratch each other's backs, fairly well, I think. So, and
So
I'm
how many
still
brothers?
involved, huh?
How many brothers
So
altogether?
there's 7 brothers, um, and we have in the framing company there's 5 partners. 5 of the brothers are owners. I'm one of those partners. And then in the landscaping company, we actually have 7 partners, but one of them is not a blood brother. He's just a really good friend of ours, and we all work in the businesses. So um, there's some of the brothers that work in our construction company that aren't owners, but they're employees basically. But they are managers there, and it's just kind of the way it started and went. Um, I had started with the company and I left, and then I bought back in, and then we had another brother that has left, and he might buy back in. I don't know, and just the way it goes. But there's 7 of us brothers, 5 partners in the construction company, and then the rest of us are partners in the landscaping company. So, but
So is it hard to work with your brothers?
I mean maybe. I mean obviously everybody thinks that immediately, but we kind of I don't know we're trying to be great, and with that mentality, going into this, we're able to hold each other accountable in a lot of ways. And somehow, by the grace of God, or however you want to say it, we've kind of just held together through the hard times, and every time that we get our back up against the wall, we band together and we don't point fingers. And I don't know, it's almost an unspoken pact or something that we're always going to get along. I don't know. We've never like really talked about it. It's just happened. And then, I mean, we're very passionate about what we do, and so it's hard to have family functions without talking about work then. But
I
the
bet.
older we
Yeah.
get, the better, the easier it is. The older we get, the easier it is because we have more to talk about and just other things going on in our lives. But um, when it's all work and we have this mentality of always having each other's back no matter what. If the construction company gets in a bind, they're calling me and I'm talking to them, or the landscaping gets in a bind, I'm calling them and they're coming over and having my back, and we're making decisions together. We operate as a board basically with the big decisions, and then like I said, I'm the CEO or general manager, however you want to say, of this company. And then my younger brother is actually the manager, the CEO of the construction company. And then each brother kind of has his position. So we have like an estimator and project manager. We have a couple other project managers, supervisors, if you will. And they kind of have their spot. Like that's what they're good at. That's what they do. They manage the guys or the crews, whereas the other guy might manage all the estimating, all the bidding, and everything like that. Then we have a brother that's in charge of all the subcontractors. He's managing them, checking their work, talking to them. And then, Winston, he's kind of the CEO of the company, does all the executive. He signs the contracts. He's dealing with all the high ups. He doesn't put his nail bags on. He has a computer and a pencil. So, and we kind of just find our spot, and it just kind of happens, and we respect each other with it. And I don't know, like
It's
we
amazing.
we never like actually like sat down and said, all right, this is what we're gonna do. Like aside from we're gonna build and we're gonna mow, whatever. But then we just kind of find our niche thing, you know,
Yeah.
and it just happens. So
It's incredible because I mean that's something you guys don't hear very often is I mean, you know that there's family businesses and people
yeah,
work with their family and this and that, but for
yeah,
you to have all of your brothers
yeah,
on board, usually they hear, oh, it's me and like two of my
yeah.
brothers, and the other two don't want nothing to do with it. But to have all of you doing it and all of you working together, that's incredible.
I actually kind of want to give credit to my younger brother Winston, probably for doing it, because he's always stayed humble enough, and we've always trusted him enough to manage. And he, like I said, he's the CEO of the other company, and he's always just kind of, I don't know, he's had the levelest head in the hardest situations. He's always been tough where he needs to be tough, but doesn't say anything when, I don't know, he somehow naturally falls into that role really well. And so we've trusted him so much to run things. And, he's never betrayed that trust. He's always been, very upfront and straight with everything. He's discreet about the things that he should be discreet about, and he's open about things he should be open about. And he just kind of naturally fell into that spot, and he's always
Who's made
learned.
for it?
Yeah, he's done a great job. And so now with the landscaping company came in afterwards, I've often call him or talk to him like, all right, I'm dealing with this situation, maybe with another partner or something, let's figure out what we can do. And I've kind of gone off of his experience in past. The frustrating thing is he a lot of times just goes, and he doesn't really answer the question very well. But that's just kind of the way he does it. If he's doing it, and don't get me wrong, he has advice, but I kind of look to him for a lot of that experience, because he's been doing it. That company's been around for over 6 years now, and the landscaping company's only about 2.5 years old. So,
So how old are
but
you?
I'm gonna be 31 next month.
Okay.
So, yeah, yeah, and I'm
So
second
you guys are
oldest in
all
the brothers.
so you guys are all pretty young.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel very young sometimes, but yeah. We started doing
Uh,
this when we were like 25, I think I was 24 or 25. I can't remember exactly what age I was. Um, and we've worked all of our lives. We were homeschooled and grew up very religious, sheltered family. And our dad was, I mean, he worked on the farm growing up, and then he was in land leveling a little bit, and then he ended up in the building business and the concrete business. And we just kind of always I don't know, we never thought about school and college or anything, and we just got jobs and worked. Once we was done with school, we got a job, and most of it was cash under the table with uncles or something.
Yeah.
Um, Whether it was we went and built houses with them, or whether we went and cut grass with them, it was one or the other. And us brothers, just that was the normal thing to do. Was you started working, and we naturally, I think, became pretty good leaders. I think because we always moved up in the businesses we went into, and I don't know, we just gained a lot of experience just by getting out there, and like I said, our dad worked. We always just worked, and
Yeah.
he's probably going to die working, but that's just who he was and the way things were. I mean, that was how we provided for ourselves. Um, we never thought about these other alternate sources of income, investing, and the real estate and all these other things where in our mind it's not work, but so that's kind of new to us brothers, and now we're starting to try to get into that and thinking about it and thinking about bigger things and not just staying in the trenches.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah. I was going to ask you, since you brought up your schooling, did you finish high school? Did you go to college?
I have about a sixth grade education as far as school goes. It was a
Well, that just
Mennonite
goes to tell you that
curriculum.
school's not everything.
It's not everything. No, it depends on what you're after. Um,
Yeah.
and so, just because of the way I was raised and the religion that my parents was in at the time, like that was you homeschooled your children. And so I don't know. I mean, I once that we kind of left that, I would say cult, if you will, if you want to call it, I think it was a cult. Once us boys kind of got out of that and we moved into town, um, we married women that were educated, and I think it's inspired us a lot. And I think just every man, when they, start a family and become inspired, they're motivated to be better. And that means improving what you know. And I'm a bookworm, so I listen to books all day long or podcasts all day long. And I know I'm not the only brother that does that. That we've just naturally have educated ourselves outside. And maybe we didn't go through a 12th grade math book, but we use math in the business. We don't. Maybe we don't have the best grammar, the proper writing, but we think about it. Um, we when we write our emails, it's a lot of times, especially if it's a big email, it's kind of funny. We have a email chain. We'll send it, okay, what do you think about this? And we'll send it back and forth, and like, oh, your grammar sucks. And we just kind of correct each other and stuff like that. And so education has been lacking probably, but I don't know. At the end of the day, it's not everything. And it depends on what you want to do, because leadership, management, that's not learned. Or I mean, that's not taught in the school. That's just something that's learned on site. It's
Yeah.
something that experience teaches. So yeah, I mean, I don't want to shun school because I've seen what it can do. I mean, like I said, my wife's educated and her family's well educated, and they're all extremely successful. And if they hadn't have gone to school, they wouldn't have been where they're at. Well, I mean, who's to say? But um, it's gone to show that they did use their schooling and education, and so I can see both sides of it. And I'm going to encourage my kids to get an education. I mean, they're going to
Yeah.
school like normal kids, and I'm not stuck in that rut of don't send your kids to school or college. I don't just believe in that wholeheartedly. It just really just depends on what you want to do.
I think
So
when it comes to blue collar, I mean, there's not really a book to teach you
yeah,
on
yeah,
the different trades and stuff. I think it is you have to physically get in there and
right,
learn from a lot of the old school guys, learn
yep,
from a lot of, people have been doing it, because you're not going to open a book up and learn everything and be like, "Oh, that's easy. I can do that." It's a different
right.
world. So,
I do
but
like the idea of trade schools, but there's still even something lacking in trade schools. It's actually the doing it that's where it's going to come
yeah,
in the most. Yeah. And now what industry was you in? Or are you
I
still in
was
the industry?
no, so I'm not in the mining industry, but I was a rock miner. I did
Okay.
surface mining.
Okay.
And I mean, I graduated high school, but my reading skills and spelling skills are terrible. So that's why I went
Yeah.
right into blue collar, and I ended up getting into the mining industry probably my 20s,
Okay.
and I absolutely once I got into it, I was hooked. Like
Yeah.
I just loved it.
Yeah.
And then electrocuted. Now I don't
Yeah.
do that anymore.
Yeah. That's crazy experience though. I mean, and
Yeah.
we never know what comes of things in life. I had an interesting experience once where um, was swinging a sledgehammer and ended up messing with my back or something, and I went to the chiropractor, and they looked at it and checked me out, and the chiropractor looked at it and did some X-rays, and he said, "You're never going to work again. This is going to be for the rest of your life. Basically, you've messed yourself up pretty bad." And I remember laying on that table just crying, like, what am I going to do? I got two
Yeah.
kids, a home, how am I going to pay for the car? Like, I was just like, what am I going to do? And this was probably before podcast really was even a thing, but like I was like thinking in my head, I was like, well, maybe I just need to buck up and get into motivational speaking and become a speaker or something. Like I could probably still figure out a way to be productive.
Yeah.
And went to a different doctor then, and he's like, oh no, this is all it is, and he clicked me back in place. You're good. And then I was good to go. But I remember having that thought of, this is it, I'm done.
Yeah.
And I decided I wasn't going to give up no matter what. I didn't exactly know what I was going to do, but I wasn't going to do nothing. And so that's kind of admirable. It looks like that's basically what you've done, is you've taken something and said, well, okay, I'm going to change course here because I'm limited with what I'm going to do over there. And
Yeah. It
that's
was
that's
really
very
hard because
admirable.
just like you said, you know, worried about how you're gonna, provide for your kids and
Yeah,
house and all that. That was the same thing
yeah,
when I woke up in the hospital. That was like a couple of my first thoughts
yeah,
was once I really was able to grasp what happened to me, then
mm,
those thoughts of how am I going to keep the house? How am I going
yeah,
to pay for this? How am I going to pay for that? And it was like extremely terrifying
yeah,
because all I know is blue collar.
yeah.
So if I'm not able to go do that, what was I going to do? And luckily,
Right.
my wife, she was like, well, let's start an apparel company
Mm,
for blue collar. So we did that. And
yeah,
then she was like, hey, what if we started a podcast for blue collar
yeah,
workers who, I mean, and that the podcast ended up turning into for blue collar men and women, people have been hurt, people with unique disabilities. And it's just to get the normal people, everyday life people on here talking about their lives and sharing their stories
yeah.
because you don't know what someone else is going through or
Right.
has been through. And I think it's a good thing to have an outlet where they can share that.
Well, and it's kind of interesting how that times have changed, and with the information age and technology age, or whatever you want to say, that um, this idea of, oh, if you're a carpenter, before that was very popular and honorable profession, and now it's like, oh, you're just a framer. It's like, oh, you're one of those guys. I've heard said to me before, landscapers are a dime a dozen. You can just hire anybody. Um,
I don't know
and
about where you're at, but down here in Florida, man, that is a different breed.
yeah,
The
well,
landscapers down here, they are incredible.
well, that's crazy. I'd actually like to go down and see it one of these days, um, but I guess what I'm coming into saying is that people think that you're not going to be successful unless you have a college education, and that you're, you know, and I don't know, get your degree or whatever. But
Yeah,
like you said, there's no schooling or degree for these industries. But one of the things that people will talk about is, well, how are you going to make a living and buy a house and do all these things if you're working concrete all your life? Well, you probably won't be. You probably can't. But the idea of you're going to work concrete all your life is silly. It's no, you're not going to work concrete all your life. You're going to work concrete for a while, gain experience, and then you're going to lead people. And you're going
that's
to
right.
maybe start your business or work for somebody and use your experience that you gained to then manage. You start using your brain more and less your brawn. And a lot of blue collar people don't see it that way. They see it as, well, this is just the job to get me through college, and then I'll get my cool job. And well, if that's what you want to do, if you want to be a dentist, I worked with these Mormon kids, and they're incredible because they're all taught to work hard. But I had a kid that wanted to be a dentist. I had a kid that wanted to be a lawyer. One was going to be an accountant, like these, high-fluting jobs, if you will, or
Yeah,
what I call high-fluting jobs. And they wanted to come to work, and and the two of them were well disciplined, but the lawyer one, he was just kind of like, didn't seem to care, whatever. And like I took it very serious. I take my job very serious. I'm wearing a uniform, like, and I told him, like, when you get out of your truck or your car ready to go to work, I want your belt on, I want your pants pulled up, your shirt tucked in,
Get ready for the job.
ready for the job. And he's like, well, it's just a lame job just to get me through college so I can go into college or go into be a lawyer. And I said, all right, maybe you're not very passionate about this. I get that. But imagine walking into your lawyer's office and you have a law partner and you're dressed like this and you get dressed the rest of the way. Because he was coming to work like half dressed, basically, like, hey. And I said, imagine you show up. I said, there nobody's want to be your partner. Nobody's going to want you to work with you. Like, if you have that mentality starting out, you're never going to have the proper mentality going in. And like he kind of pushed back a little bit, but a couple weeks later, like, he started showing up dressed to go to work, and then it just changed who he was completely. And it took him a while, but I see that transformation, in which I think he was a unique case. But it kind of went to show that if you put some effort into being good at anything, you can succeed quite well. And so I didn't really like it that I don't like it that some people say, well, this job is just for now, because I always bring in these new kids to work for me, and I'll tell them, you can have a career in this, and you can make good money. You actually can, and you can buy a house. I did it, and I've always been in the industry. I'm buying my second home right now, and I've never been outside of blue collar work. And people are like, well, you must just have all this stuff given to you. No, my dad made like $10,000 a year when I was growing up.
Yeah,
I
work for it.
didn't. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is like, you can be successful. Maybe you're not balling like Jeff Bezos yet, but but he didn't just take it easy in Jacuzzi,
Yeah.
you know. And so it bothers me when people kind of think that blue collar work is just a step up job. It's not.
No,
You
no,
know.
yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
definitely not. But it's funny because when we talk about money with blue collar,
Yeah.
I've had a guest on here on the podcast, and we were talking, and he said the same thing, that a lot of these kids these days, blue collar from when we were kids to what it is now is completely
Mm.
different. You look back when we were kids, blue collar was looked down on. People didn't think you made money off of it. And the industries, yeah, you made some pocket change, but then that's where people think it's a step up.
Yeah.
But now people see that all these guys and women in the industries are banking on all these different jobs. Don't go out there to chase the money.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to go out there just chasing the money and hoping to be rich one day off it, you're going to hate your job. There's no
Yeah.
passion, there's no
Yeah.
pride.
It's the passion.
And that's where you'll end
Yeah.
up just quitting, and then you'll try to get another job and quit that one, quit that one, quit that.
Yep.
You need to find
I
something that you love.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. And that's one of the greatest, and that's actually why I bought back in with my brothers, actually, is, do you know who John Maxwell is?
I do not.
Okay, John Maxwell, he's a fantastic writer. He's a leadership coach. Anyways, I was reading one of his books, and he basically asked the question: if you could have, in a perfect world, whatever you're doing right now, are you in the job that you want, and are you in the industry? What is the perfect job that you want? And if you're not in that job, or if you're not in that industry, quit your job tomorrow and go be a janitor for them. Just get in the building, basically, get there, or go to school, or what, just only work towards that, if that's truly what you want. Because if
Yeah.
you're over here saying, well, I wished I would have, and I wish I could, like, you can't do that. You have to actually try for it. And so I was like, well, that's incredible. Like, I want to be a businessman, and I want to build things and do all this great stuff for myself. And I was working for somebody at the time. I was like, this is a great company, and I'm a manager here. I'm have prestige here. Like, I'm awesome here, right? But like, I still want to do other things. And so I knew I had to change course. And so that's something that I'll tell kids a lot of times. And I've taken a job for money, but it was a job I hated. And so when I hear them come to me and they say, hey, I got a better job offer, I say, oh, okay, well, good for you. I says, but just so you know, the only job that I ever truly hated was the one I took for money. And sometimes they'll go ahead and go, but it's like I always just tell them that, and most of the time they do go because they're trying to make more money, but part of me wonders if they're trying to leverage me to pay them more.
Yeah, like
And the other thing that I've told people before, and I'm very, very clear about it, is if I ever hear a whiff of quiet quitting, you're fired immediately. I will not tolerate that behavior of, well, I'm not going to get anything out of this, and so I might as well just barely do the minimum. It's like, no, we're here to grow. Everybody's here to grow. If you come to work for me, I expect to see you as a future leader in the company. I'm gonna try to make you so good at what you do that you replace me to where that I can go do something different. You can have my
see, that's
job,
amazing.
and I'm the boss.
That's
Like
truly
I'm
amazing that
gonna.
you said that.
Well, why wouldn't I though? Because like, what a better idea than build people that want to come. I mean, because then I could go do something different, right? I could go, run for governor or something, right?
No, hands down. I think that's something that you do not hear a lot of business owners or bosses or CEOs. You know, you've never heard them say that.
Hmm.
You know, you
That
have
kind
those
of
guys out
surprises
there.
me though.
Well, it really is surprising that you said that because you don't hear it a lot. That you have the boss to encourage that keep pushing, keep pushing. You could be me and
Yeah,
then take my job.
yeah,
But I understand from your point, yeah, you want somebody to be a leader because then you get to take the step back and chase more.
yeah. Or I mean, yeah, or just slow down, one or the other. But
Yeah,
um, I think that's where I think people are so short-sighted with blue collar, is there's more to it than just cutting the grass or just moving the rocks or whatever, being in the trenches. You could actually sit in my chair someday, and if you start thinking about that, and I realized that that was one of the differences between me and the rest of the guys everywhere that I worked, is I always wanted the boss's job, always, which made me hard to get along with the bosses because I didn't know how to. I was a young man and was kind of a jerk and didn't listen very well and challenged authority. But I always wanted the boss's job, and I always imagined myself as the boss. I always thought of myself like that, and I always worked towards that job every single job I've ever had, and I've never not been moved up or promoted in some way in any job that I've ever had. And I think that if people think I'm just going to stay right here, and we need those people too. Don't get me wrong. I have some people that are just extremely content exactly where they're at. I'm happy. I like working here. We're good. You need those people too, and
it's true. You do.
and so I actually a lot of times, and I actually don't have that conversation with them until that I've worked with them for about a week and a half, 2 weeks. And then I say, so what are you after here at this company? Like, what do you want to do? Like, where do you see yourself going? And it's always that silly question, where do you see yourself in 10 years kind of deal. But I always say, like, where do you see yourself next year here? What do you see yourself doing? Where do you want to be? And they don't really think about it very much, or they hadn't thought about it very much. And most time they're like, you know, and most time, a lot of the guys are like, well, I see myself having this other job at some other cool company or whatever. But I said, well, actually, what if you thought about it like this? Imagine you're the one running this truck. Imagine you're the one doing this. And they're like, okay. And I said, and then imagine you're making this much money. Okay, I could imagine that. And I said, well, just work towards it. See what happens. And try to work your boss out of a job. Well, what's he going to do? Don't worry about him. You worry about you. Try to basically take his job from him in a way. Be that good at what you do.
That's
And
awesome. That you push
I don't
and you
always
push.
have that conversation with everybody, but yes, it's always that you're
Certain
not going to
ones.
stay right here. But some of them are like, dude, I'm happy. Like, this is good. I'm happy with the job. Yes, I'd like to get more money, get higher wages or whatever. And most of the time you can, because they get better at what they do. So you can pay them a little bit more anyways. But, you make it clear, like, if you're going to stay here, like, there's a cap on wages basically at some point, as long as the industry, if the industry can go up, then we can make more. But this is where we're at. And so, yeah, I don't know. I've always tried to tell people to work yourself out of a job, work yourself up. You know, I don't know.
But
I
it's
don't
good
know
to have the
where I
ones that
started that. It just happened, I guess. I don't know.
I think it's amazing. I think you need to push. I think a lot of bosses should push their employees to do better for themselves, especially in their company, because it's
Yeah,
helping everybody.
yeah,
Everybody will move up. And
yeah,
like you said, you do want the ones that are content where they're at because if they're happy being where they're at and they're happy coming to work every day, that's a good employee because
Yeah.
he loves his job.
Yeah.
He's happy where he is. He's going to do his
Yeah.
job right, and it works for
The
you.
the interesting thing is about those employees is they're always looking for ways to improve their skills though. So it's not that they're sitting stagnant, is they're
Yeah.
still improving their skill. They're just not wanting to be in charge, and that's the difference. And like I said, you still need those people. But if they're not growers, then you probably won't work here very long. And most of the time those people move on anyways. So they weed themselves out, and it just kind of happens.
So I've
And
seen a
I
lot of
think,
your videos.
yeah. Oh, okay.
I've seen a lot of your videos,
Okay.
and it looks like you guys have a lot of fun while working, getting the job done. The
Yeah.
crew that I've seen a lot of your videos in, you guys look like it's a big family crew. Like you guys are
Yeah.
all together, and that's great to see. Because I've worked in
Yeah.
crews like that, and it's the best environment.
Right. We do, and I think a lot of that has to do with the employees that we had. And we had this one guy, or well, we have this one guy actually. He's still there. He's actually my younger brother's brother-in-law, and he was just one of those guys that he needed his friends. Like he needed his friends, and somebody would come on the crew, and you could see really really fast whether they were going to work out or not by whether they came into his little group or whatever. And eventually, like, the whole crew was the group. But he always thought about the crew as the crew. Like, they were his boys. And they'd wind up
Yeah.
being buds. And they'd hang out on the weekends. And they would go to Roaring Springs or wherever. That's a water park up here. They would do things together. But then there was some guys that they would bring along, but they just didn't fit in. Just something was off with it. And those guys generally would kind of go somewhere else, do something different. And after a while, like, all the people that were left with all these guys that could go to lunch together, having a blast. And all day long at work, they're having the radio blasting and they're just building, and it's all just playtime for them. They love coming to work because they're going to see their boys. And I think that this guy, Patrick, was kind of one of the things that really started that environment. And there was a couple other kids that kind of branched off from there, and they became leaders, you might say, as well, inside the crew. And I think they're actually crew leaders now, if I'm not mistaken, some of these guys, because this is one of the greatest ways to find your leaders too, is find out who everybody wants to follow. Because if you just say, all right, random person, you're in charge, it's going to be really hard to find that person. But if you look at the guy that everybody follows, he's already leading.
Exactly.
And so these guys wound up in leadership positions simply because people would follow them. And I don't think that happened with everybody, but I know for sure one guy in particular, naturally people followed him, and then he was in charge. But the thing of it is about somebody like that is, if you have a boss that tells you what to do, you'll probably do it, because he's your boss. But if you have somebody that you have this respect for, because you naturally respect the person, and they ask you to do something, you'll be glad to do it then. Not just because he's your boss. In fact, you would do it even without him being the boss. And so I think that was one of the things that we kind of looked for, is that we could create these leaders and find these leaders that people were naturally following. Part of our job was already done. We didn't have to say, you have to listen to them, because people had already naturally listened. And I don't know, it just kind of worked itself out. And then everybody got along. You were happy to work with them. They're excited to be on his team or whatever. And I don't know. I think the employees actually created that environment more than us brothers did. But us brothers are like that amongst each other. But it was different when the employees came around. Like, I know some of the younger brothers were friends with the employees. But I think as times went on, like, we're not unfriendly, but we're the boss. So it kind of changed the dynamic a little bit. And we have had to fire some of their friends, or we've had to actually, have conversations where it was very clear who was in charge. And so it kind of the line naturally drew itself, and we get along great. But we just kind of let them do their thing, and they've gotten in trouble a couple times, cutting up and doing things, I've had a couple videos banned me on TikTok, a couple times because it's some hazing video that they throw in somebody in a trash box or something, and TikTok will ban me for bullying. you know,
Yeah.
and they're just cutting up and being guys, and we for the most part let it happen. We kind of, shake our head at it and just like, but as long as it's harmless and everybody's getting along and it's part of the ritual, you got to let them do it. You have to let your guys release, if you will, and
Yes,
and
because then when they come to work the next day, they are
yeah,
excited. Like you said,
yeah,
they are happy to be there. They're
yep,
ready. They're going to have a good day, and it's
yep,
playtime for them. Because
yeah,
once you're in that zone, like I've worked in that environment where you're
yeah,
just having such a fun time with your buddies. That work, you're doing the job and you're getting it done usually faster because you're having a good time doing
yeah.
it.
Well, and even like one of the struggling times is we struggle is heat and cold because we get both here. Is then the next day after a hot day, you're like, dude, we kicked butt yesterday. I know it's so hot, but we pushed through. And you're so proud of the hardship that you went through that it's not so hard anymore. But a lot of people are like, dude, this is so effing hot, I'm quitting. And so
Yeah.
they give up. But when you have these guys that are in this environment and they have each other ribbing each other, dude, you're such a wuss, get back to work. They hold each other accountable or something like that. And I think if they didn't have that friend group and that environment already, they wouldn't have did that. They wouldn't have pushed. They wouldn't have accomplished. And then they have that at the
Yeah.
end of the day, like, dude, we killed it today. It was hot, but we did it. And
Yeah,
they
I've
do
seen
that a
your
lot.
videos of it snowing too. I've
Oh
seen your
yeah,
videos where you
yeah,
have all your tools around the fire pit.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I want
That
none
was
of that.
actually that was right after Grant fell. We was working on that building over there, and that was a tough building, actually. That one was. It took us a long time to do that one. It was a 24-plex, and the weather got in the way a couple times. But in Idaho winters, most of the time it's okay, but it starts snowing and freezing, and it gets frustrating to work. You got to shovel the floors out and warm the tools up before they work very well, and keep your air warmed up. Otherwise, the condensation will freeze in the hoses. And I don't know. You get used to it after a little bit. It's just normal. So, but
I want none of that.
yeah, you gotta enjoy
Keep
your
that,
Florida
yeah,
winter.
I'll take the Florida winter like
I don't know.
50 degrees out.
I love the seasons. I love them so much. That's why I'll never leave Idaho. Like I love it because it's hot in the summer, it's beautiful in the fall, it's cold in the winter, and spring's wonderful. And it's exactly how it's supposed to be. I think. Like it's a perfect. I think it's
So
great.
I was born and raised in New Hampshire.
New Hampshire. Okay.
So
So
I
you
dealt with
you've
all the
seen the winter.
winters and all that.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I agree. I definitely miss the seasons. Here in
Yeah.
Florida, I'm big into fishing
Oh
and I
yeah.
can fish
Okay.
all year round
Well, you can
without
fish
an
over here. You
issue.
just go ice fishing, right?
Yeah, don't have to worry about no ice fishing. But you don't see any seasons. Our palm trees, they don't change colors. The leaves don't
Yeah.
change colors. You don't get none of that. So yeah, I
Oh, fall
definitely
is
miss winter.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Yeah.
So
But
you did mention Grant. How is he
yeah,
doing?
he's like 100%. I'm pretty sure.
That's awesome.
I mean, he's probably within reason. I don't know. He'd have to tell you himself, but he's out there killing it. But you know what's incredible about him is he's in jujitsu. And I did talk to him, by the way, and I think he might be interested in visiting
Yeah.
with you guys. But he was in jujitsu, and so he was in really really good shape when he fell, and he was super healthy. And so, it took him a long time to recover. But I think if he hadn't have been that healthy, he
It would have
probably
been
would
a
have
lot
struggled
harder.
a little bit more. But then he was extremely motivated to get better. Like he was extremely motivated, and he had some operations that held him back and stuff. But as time moved on, and he's always stayed very religious with his therapy and making sure that he's getting through everything. And then he actually married my sister-in-law, my wife's sister, about a year ago. Yeah, about a year ago they got married. Just an incredible kid, and he's pushed through, and now he's the basically the project manager, crew leader, supervisor, however you want to say it, for our framing crew right now. He's leading all these guys. So he has like right now today, I think he has like 4 crews that he's managing, and he's pumping at it. He's going for it. So he's doing
I
really
loved
really
how
good.
I loved how you guys, like again, I watched a bunch of your videos, and
Yeah,
the ones with Grant, I thought it was truly amazing that everyone stopped what they're doing at the job site, went down to the car, all around them. They
yep,
showed their
yeah,
support. I
yeah.
seen
Gave
one
him
where
his
you went
hammer.
to the hospital. Yeah, I gave the
Yeah,
hammer.
yeah.
Seen one where you went to the hospital to check on him
Well,
and stuff.
oh yeah. Well, because us brothers would go and spend the day with him. We took turns just hanging out.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. That was my day that day. Yeah, it was, and he was very surprised that he was still alive. Like he was like, I should be dead, kind of deal, and so he's very very um, grateful to you know that he's alive, and so I think he's not taking that lightly. And yeah, we the crew is behind him. I think you've probably seen a couple of videos where I went and was just like, hey, what do you have to say to Grant? And everybody had something to say. And then when we got him out of the hospital, that was the greatest one, because like the crew was like, dude, we got to do something for this. And I said, all right, let's do it. And so he went up there, and they had like the radio with like his favorite song, and everybody's trying not to cry. And we helped him get him in the car and stuff. And then TikTok takes my video down because the music, because of the
Oh,
music, the sound. And the acoustics were amazing. And I was just recording the regular video. And I think I redid it but I had to repost the video. But it got like millions of views, the first video, and they took it down. And the next video I don't think did as well, but it was an incredible experience though. And it was so tough though, just losing him, because he was so good on the crew. He was so good on the crew, and he wasn't like this rerum terum lead'em boss, but he had this. He inspired people, and he was so skilled at everything that he did. He was incredibly skilled and super smart. And so when he was gone, it was like, but Grant did this. Like, how come this job isn't done? Well, Grant generally did it, and it was a good experience. We just couldn't wait till Grant got back, and it took, I think it was two years or something before he ever came back to the job. But yeah, the crew was extremely supportive, and that one of the guys started to go fund me for him to help him out with his medical bills, um, and we just kind of got behind it. Us brothers were already kind of like, hey, we're gonna be there
yeah.
till the end with him, but everybody else came in, and the crew was, they did their part really well. I think it's just incredibly
I do
supportive.
too.
And
I mean, like I said, it
you know
was great to see that the whole
yeah,
crew stopped what they're doing to support him. And
yeah,
that's that right there. That's that blue collar brotherhood. I mean,
yep,
that's
yep,
love.
yeah.
So it was great to see that.
Well, and they were there. Most of them was there when he fell, and they seen everything happen, and seen everything go down. And it was, I mean, you just don't see stuff like that every day, and the
Yeah.
guy that had the most skill and the most experience on the job was the one that was hurt, and that's the way it was that day. And then what do you do? How do you pick up from there? And we had several jobs going on at the time, and we kind of had to figure out how to complete the task. But yeah, that was a tough one, and we both fell. Me and Grant both fell. But the piece I was harnessed to. So the piece that Grant was harnessed to fell. Like he was in a girder and gable combo, and he was harnessed off to that. And when we sent the crane up, it hooked on one of the hangers. One of the cable hooked on one of the craners and ripped it off the wall. But it was fastened to the wall and all fastened and everything and solid. But I mean, you have a crane that is just,
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to tear it right off. And he was harnessed in there to it. And so the piece that he was standing in, that was ripped off the wall. But he was all harnessed off and everything. And I was inside the same unit, but I was harnessed off behind me, a little ways. And so I fell and slammed against the building, and he went 3 stories down to the ground in this contraption
Jeez.
of wood, and just, and I thought he was dead when he hit the ground,
Yeah,
but
you must have been terrified because if you, if you fell with your harness on, now you're just hanging from your harness, not
Yeah.
being able to do anything, right?
Well, yes. I mean, I thought this is it. Here I go, because I was headed straight to concrete. um, but then I, felt the harness stretch and pull and slammed against the wall, and then I knew I was good. Like I was like, I am good. I can recover from this, no problem. But I just kind of look over and I just see him all in a tangled, busted mess down on the ground, just not moving and blood coming out of his mouth, just sitting there. And half the crew comes running over to the side of the building where I am, and I was like, "Get down to Grant, like I'm good." Like I just kept telling, like I knew I was good, and I was on an earpiece with the crane operator. I was the one directing the crane, and I just said, "Hey, can you call 911?" And he said, "Yes," and he hung up for me and called 911, and I was able. I don't know how I did it. I mean, there was angels or gremlins or somebody there helping me, but anyways, I unhooked my harness and climbed into this window. Still don't know how I got there. Got into this window and went down, and there was at the apartment next door. There was a lady that had seen it happen. She was on the phone with 911. Our rigger, he was on the phone with 911, and so then I sent three guys to every single entrance to the complex to wave the ambulance down. And then I just told the people on the phone, hey, make sure that they know that I have people out there and they'll be in high vis clothes and hard hats to catch, to get the
Yeah.
fire truck and get everybody in. And then a couple of the guys brought over some 4x8 sheets of plywood and held it up because it was really hot. Held it up to shade him, and we got his nail bags off of him, and he kept wanting to try to get up, and we just kept him, there. And paramedics came, and we kind of stepped back and let them do their thing and haul them out. Um, and then the adrenaline kicked in, or then the adrenaline wore off, and I was just you know started to think about it a little bit, and it actually didn't really start to go until I was headed home, and then I called my wife, and I was like, "Hey, I'm coming home," and she's like, "Oh, you're coming home early," and I said, "Yeah," and then I started to tell her what happened,
Yeah.
and putting it into words, just I had to pull over on the side of the freeway, just pull
Yeah.
myself together before I come the rest of the way home, and um, but you know what's incredible is OSHA never showed up on that job. Um, and I got to give credit to our safety guys because we had all these safety protocols already in place. And the safety consultant that worked for the general contractor, he had a very good relationship with OSHA. And they found out, okay, this guy's on the job site. They were following the safety protocol. They said, just send me your report. We're good. You guys are good.
Oh
And they
wow.
never even showed up. I mean, we've sent communicated through email, and then we walked through the building and talked about our plan, like our fly plan, because we had a fly plan, and like we followed all the safety protocols. Everybody's wearing harnesses, hard hats, high vis,
Yeah.
glasses, everything. Like we were 100%. And they all of the guys, because we all had to fill out reports, and I told them, just be 100% honest about everything. Don't worry about hurting us. If you're worried it's going to hurt us, write it anyways. Just be 100% honest, tell the complete truth. And so every single story was almost the exact same, just depending on where they were standing at the building.
Yeah.
And OSHA seen that, and they're like, okay, your safety guy's on the job. He's saying this is what happened. Here was your plan. You're good. And they never showed up. We just communicated through email, and like to this day, I don't think we've ever gotten an OSHA fine ever in our whole entire business.
That's
Um,
amazing.
and we just, well, we're
You know
scared of
what
getting
you're
OSHA
doing.
fines, and so we just basically said we're wearing hard hats and safety glasses, and safety's important. And bummer if you don't like it, and you're going to do it. And we forced the guys to do it for a while until after a while it became normal, and then you don't have to force anybody to do anything because it was just normal. But it was uncomfortable and hard to deal with harnesses, and safety glasses will fog up in the heat and the
Oh
cold,
yeah.
and just silly things. People want to wear shorts on the job, and can't wear shorts. You got to wear the proper shoes, and just different things like that. And writing people up for not wearing their safety glasses, and it's annoying. And people wanting to walk walls. Um, but we've always just, I don't know. And like I said, the safety consultant, they pushed safety too. Like they made us, they're very inspiring too, and they motivate us to make sure that our railing was nailed off properly and that we were following the right protocols. And then one of the things that we did is we went pretty much completely cordless. Didn't have any cords, and that was one of the places they'll catch you every time because you got a cord on the extension cord with the wrong end on it, and we just didn't have anything with cords on it, and so you just didn't have to worry about it really. But I don't know, we did all right, and we've always had a safety plan. We got safety manuals, and we communicate with them really, really well. We've reported several incidences to OSHA. We've had several incidences. Incidences, is that the right word? Anyways, but they've never fined us. They'll show up on the job, and we'll go through everything, and they see our JSA and safety meetings, and lucky, I guess. I don't know. We just did okay. So
that's a good thing, though. That's what you want. If you're not getting any violations, that means you're doing it right.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I've talked a lot about myself, and I'm sorry. I kind of want to hear more about you too. So.
No, that's what this is. This is about you. This isn't about me.
Okay.
It's about you.
Yeah.
But before we wrap it up, what advice do you got to give to would you like to give to the younger generation that would like to get into framing or any blue collar lawn care like you do, the landscaping?
Make sure you're passionate about it for sure, and then don't give up too early, because you going home with a really, really sore back because you've been working hard is a good thing, but don't give up because you're having a hard time getting out of bed in the morning. The other thing that I would really say, and it kind of goes back to what I've talked about before, is that no matter what position you are on the crew, try to, for one, better yourself, but never be afraid to try to better the other people. So if you got a buddy working with you, if that you can help them and inspire them, then you're going to get better yourself. The best learners are teachers. You learn more by teaching than you do by learning. And so always look for ways that you can help somebody out, because not only are you having your buddy's back, but you're also learning yourself. So I would just say, always look for ways to teach. Never settle. Never think this is all I'm gonna. This is where I'm gonna be. Always know that you can move up, and always be the first guy there if you can. Right? I mean, that goes a long ways. But
yeah, if you're on time, you're late.
Yeah, pretty much. Yep. But I mean, and the other thing too is give it a chance. People don't want to give it a chance. They don't want to give the industries a chance. And one of the things that I think of as far as our jobs go is I'm creating so much history where I'm at, and I don't even know it, or I didn't even know it until I actually thought about it. These are the good old days for me. So 20 years from now, I'm going to look back and be like, holy cow, we built all these apartments, or we landscaped these properties, or we have we've beautified all this stuff. I tell the guys all the time that when we're doing lawn maintenance, we're beautifying the place. We're making it pretty. And so blue collar people, what I think they underestimate how much history they're creating, because, and I'm sure that, I don't know how the mining works exactly, but for me, I always drive by, if I ever got somebody new in the truck, I built that. Me and my brothers built that, right? You drive by, we maintain that. I'm always so proud of it. And so I think that, well, yes, but I think that people
take all that pride.
Well, what I was leading up to saying though is that these people think, well, I'm just doing a job. No, you're doing something that you can be proud of. Do a job that you can drive by it and be like, I did that. So when you're doing these blue collar industries, don't just think of it as a job. It's not just a job. It's something that you're building that you can be proud of. And it's going to be there forever, pretty much, right? I mean, well, within reason, right?
And that's right, because you're building these houses. You're not just doing a job. You're starting the foundation for a family to live in, for a family to make their family memories in the house that you built.
In every single part of that house, whether it's gravel work, plumbing, electrical, roofing, I mean, any part of it, you are building something. You're contributing to building it.
Yeah.
And I think people underestimate and don't take enough pride in what they do, because to them it's just an effing job.
Yep.
And you have to stop thinking about it like that. This isn't the end of it. This isn't like you can do more with it. I don't know. I guess,
I
and
think it's
never take
great
a job
advice.
for money. Never take a job for money ever.
That's right.
Don't take a job for money. The only job you'll ever hate is the one you took for money.
It's true.
um, I mean, don't get me wrong. You still need to feed the family, so don't go broke doing what you love. I mean, sometimes you have to, be smart about it. But,
Yeah, you want
but
to make
if
a
you're
good
going,
paycheck.
if you're going broke doing what you love, then something's off, because there's ways to be successful in anything. There really truly is. You're just gonna have to
Yeah.
figure it out. So always be a learner. Always be a learner. Always be trying to figure things out, learn, do better, do more. Um, Nobody taught me what I do. I just learned it. So, but
No, I think it's
I
good
don't know.
advice. I think it was really good.
Yeah.
For
Okay.
anybody watching, you guys can go on TikTok and you can find his account here at Blue Collar Cowboy. It's blue collar underscore cowboy. You can check out all the videos that I was talking about in here. Amazing content. So definitely go give him a follow.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you coming on as a guest
Yeah.
and explaining
Let's
everything because it was great.
let's stay in touch. And
Yeah.
if you wanna do another episode, we can. Or if you want to talk to any of my brothers, I would actually, I think it'd be cool for you to talk to all of them, really, just to hear their side of it, especially
Yeah.
Grant, hear what he has to say. So, yeah.
Yeah, we'll keep in touch. We'll get all situated.
All right, man.
All right.
Well, John, have a good one. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
Take care.